And before I even wrote about diabetes, I actually wanted to write about strawberry shortcake. Like the character. Like I did like a whole like I did like I researched for a whole weekend on like everything about her and like her history, but then suddenly someone mentioned like about diabetes and like blood and like how sugar works. I'm like, that's not true. So I made a comic instead. So it came from like a need of like educating people. So this was kind
Right.
of by like happenstance. And I thought I could make more. And I had like this idea of just what if I focused on like blood sugar as this aspect or like I focused on like the supplies and stuff. But then I started getting depressed.
Ho, 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 ho. Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 483. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com, and we're excited to have with us the internationally acclaimed and highly talented Vermont artist and illustrator, Isabella Hall. Isabella,
Hello.
how's it going?
Hi. It's going great. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. And so this is exciting because I met you at the Rail City uh, Comic Comic Con Comic Fest Expo Comics Expo, and you are also a recent graduate of the Center for Cartoon Studies right here in Vermont. And so I guess the first thing I just want to jump out there for you, Isabella, is like, so for folks meeting you for the first time, how do you introduce yourself and your work?
Well, I mostly just introduced my name and how um my art style and what stories I like to tell, pretty much. What you see is what you get with my style and art particularly.
Isabella Hall is your name. So, but your
Yes.
website is Bella Pinkpen. Why
Yeah.
Bella Pinkpen? What does that
Oh.
name mean to you?
So some context. Back in like the early 2010, no, not 2010. So like I want to say like 2013 or something. I wanted to start a YouTube channel, so I wondered what name I should use. And my sister said, "Oh, what about Bella Pink 5? That's like the most like YouTube-esque name possible that she could think of." And I'm like, "That's perfect." And I never did anything with that because I was like, I don't know what to do for YouTube. I could do speed paints, but I don't know if I want that. But I started just, working on like little things here and there. But I'm like, I'm not going to record any of this, so I just didn't use that. But I had the name for a very long time, and I used that for my platforms on um on YouTube and my Gmail and whatnot until
Hmm.
I got an Instagram account. And I did not know what to call my Instagram because I wanted to keep it to an art theme since that's what I wanted to do and I could just take a photo and not have to worry about making a video. I could focus more on the art side and not the video making side. That's what led me down this path of naming it Pen. Not because of anything in particular, but because of what my parents and what my sister thought I should name myself. And I do like pens. I have quite a collection of pens, so it's pretty fitting name, honestly.
You describe yourself as a cartoonist who loves fantastical elements. So
Yes.
the word fantastical, there is multiple subgenres of
Yes.
fantasy and fantastical. So what type of and what kind of fantastical seems to grab and inspire you the most?
I like fairies, dragons, and very like imaginative worlds and stuff that will like make you like think a little bit
Mm,
and make you like remember something from your past or your childhood. And fantastical in my personal experience is something that will like hook you in a way that you can't really quite explain, but something that will just stay with you forever and ever.
mm.
And that's kind of where my art kind of comes from, is that fantastical element of that hook of like, I don't know what this hook is, but I love that idea. Because fairies and dragons have this like hook with people, and there's like millions of different origins, but there isn't one origin. And that's kind of what I want to hook on with my art is like fantastical in the sense of like it's whatever you want it.
Mm.
But there is like an idea that's pretty grounded, but then it's like, but what about this? It's kind of
Mm.
like in a mystery, fantastical type sense, I guess.
What's one thing you wish more people understood about cartoonists?
That it's more than just drawing and or just writing. It's a whole. It's both of these things. It's hard to have one without the other, because in a sense you're still writing when you're
Mm.
drawing, and you're drawing when you're writing. You don't switch one or the other, and that's been something that I've been constantly struggling with my art in particular, is people understanding that I am not just an artist, I'm also a writer. But I'm not just a
Mm.
writer, I'm also an artist. And there's like this weird in between them and
So, do you consider yourself a writer who draws, or you consider yourself an illustrator that writes?
neither. 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 I drawing is how I write and writing is how I draw. I do it both simultaneously as I'm working.
So, what themes do you keep returning to, even when you do like genre changes? What seems to be like themes that keep reoccurring in your work?
Stuff about life and death, um coming of age, um responsibility and family and wonder for life in the universe as a whole in both scientific and fantastical sense.
And how do you decide when a story should be creepy or cozy or funny or all three? Because some of your work seems to encompass different vibes in itself.
Yeah. Um I don't decide in terms of like what I want to write about. I think about my writing in terms of color palette.
Mm.
Like what colors do I gravitate towards, and then the style of how I draw kind of stems from the color palette. And that's also how I kind of come up with stories as well. Is okay, what's the color that I'm thinking of? Or like what type of stories do I want to write about? I'm like, okay, creepy, but then color, okay. Or like spooky
Mm.
in color, or like what about lack of color? Um I don't always decide how I want spooky stories to come about or if I want like a cute story to come about. Because they kind of just pop up when I least expect it. So with one of my comics that you were just looking at in the back, Podust, that one came by accident because it was mostly going to be like, like Spooky Buddies or Vampire Dog. It was meant to be like a family friendly kind of spooky, but over time it slowly didn't. And it stemmed from me turning from like a middle schooler down to a teenager. And I'm like, okay, it's starting to shift. And I kept that shift because I'm like, what does this mean? And I let the story tell me how it wants to be creepy or not. And if I think it fits, then I keep it. But if it doesn't quite fit, then I leave it alone for a while and it'll eventually go away. But if it keeps on coming up, then I listen. So, yeah, vibes and how my brain operates. It just kind of just like thinks forever.
And so, like, for instance, like you also wrote that you like to be connecting with the reader at any age. Um, what does that look like on a page for you?
what that would look like is an elderly person would look at this and think of like, oh, I remember doing this when I was a kid. Or a little
Mm.
kid would look at this and be like, oh, I did that this morning. Or
Huh.
or like with my collecting comic they were just looking at, my mom would take me and my sister into the woods and we would build fairy houses. And that's a very common thing in my area. We had like a whole like fairy house building group when we were really little. And building like fairy houses or just wandering around the woods is something that like most people in Vermont would connect to because
Mm.
we all like the woods is right here. And that would be like the connecting thread in that comic in particular.
Mm.
I kind of like the idea that comics and stuff kind of connect to anyone at any age. And the idea that one style is for kids and one style is for adults is not a linear thought. It's kind of broad and it all depends on your intent. And with me personally, I like keeping it pretty middle in that little regard of okay, how do I want an adult to read this? Would they be comfortable having their little kid read this?
Mm.
And so I think about like, okay, how would my characters talk? Would they swear? Probably not. And that usually helps. Other aspects of like my writing is that I like to add in like little things like I'm a diabetic and I want to add diabetic characters in some of my stuff. And that's also a really related topic with my work and how I kind of can relate to people is my comics have like this like element of a person with like a disability doing something and the disability isn't really all that too present, it's just there. Or or like let's say like there's like a sudden like element of like let's say like I'm having a low blood sugar in this comic in particular, which I kind of do near the end of this one. It's more of just like it just suddenly happens and then it just goes away because that's kind of how it usually works, unless it's for a very dramatic moment.
Mm.
Um, with comics in particular, with how I want to address how people look at um each other and sorry, I'm going on a rambling. Um, this was I kind of want to relate to people in a sense of like we're not that different, and if something happens to have like a disability or there's an age that the character is, that won't hopefully won't deter you from reading the story at all, because there is still something you can get from it. There is still something that you can learn from it, and I usually have both my current self and my past selves kind of work with the story and see how it flows from there too. There's like multiple observers. So it's like having
Mm.
multiple beta readers being like, would my little self want this? Would my teenager self want this? And I also have my family reading it too. So that also helps.
Well, hey there. If you're enjoying our podcast, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep this show going. We love hearing from you, so any feedback is welcome. And thank you for being a part of our podcast family and for all your support. It truly means a lot to us. So, do you start with the character first or a setting first when you start creating a story?
So it depends on again the when it hits.
Mm.
Here's a good example. So with Pawdust, oh there's a kitty outside my door. With with Pawdust, um my senior thesis, that one the title came first. The want to make a story about a ghost dog, that kind of came first, but I didn't know anything else beyond that. So there was an idea of a character, but there wasn't a character yet. so the title came first, and that's where everything kind of stemmed. Um,
Mm.
so the idea of this dog being kind of not the main character, but like the other main character led the story, and I began to ask questions from there, and like, what's the setting, what's the characters, what's the motives, what's all this stuff, and that's where it all stemmed from.
What was the spark behind? I want to talk a little bit about the ghost of Stella Cadente.
Okay, so that one came from a need for an assignment. Because that was for a group anthology for Monster called the Monster Mash that we did in college at CCS.
Okay.
And I was a part of this like little group. We had to make like an 8-page comic. And I was in the basement of the studio underneath CCS because there was like a little um nuclear bunker down there, and that's where the studio is, and that's where all the printers the all the computers are. And I was down there when a student there said, "Oh, I have a sailor's uniform, like a full on like a sailor's uniform," and I immediately thought of like a captain uniform. And then I'm like, "Oh, I do like ships," and then my brain went down this long path of like, "Oh, I can make a ghost ship story." Oh, and the idea of wanting to have like a character wear a uniform kind of led me down this path. And I like writing about ghosts, so that kind of fit in real well with the Monster Mash story.
You did make a comic that you called Pajama Rants, Life with Diabetes.
Yeah,
uh, this looks really fun. And it says volume one, so that means there's going to
yeah.
be more Pajama Rants than
I
Isabella,
wanted
right?
to. I
Yeah.
wanted to write more. I truly did, but I could never continue it. I have like 3 drafts that I've just never moved forward because I've always felt like with diabetes this is all I wanted to say,
Mm.
which is upsetting. And before I even wrote about diabetes, I actually wanted to write about strawberry shortcake. Like the character. Like I did like a whole like I researched for a whole weekend on like everything about her and like her history, but then suddenly someone mentioned like about diabetes and like blood and like how sugar works. I'm like, that's not true. So I made a comic instead. So it came from like a need of like educating people. So this was kind
Right.
of by like happenstance. And I thought I could make more. And I had like this idea of just what if I focused on like blood sugar as this aspect, or like I focused on like the supplies and stuff. But then I started getting depressed about like diabetes as a whole. I'm like, God dang it. So it felt a little too close to home.
Right.
And I did not know how to approach it beyond
Mm.
what I already did as like a need to like communicate what I was thinking.
Well, that was going to be my question too. Is like, how did you handle drawing something personal while keeping it readable and engaging as well?
So I mostly I wrote it as like a regular YouTube rant.
Mm.
I kind of picture myself as a YouTuber talking about diabetes. And that's kind of what helped me get through it. And again, the research took like I want to say like at least with this it took like a few weekends to do. And writing about it was very difficult personally.
Mm.
Because I had to go through like a lot of like different like traumas and kind of like hint at certain things. And there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to write that I could not write about in this comic in particular. Like the trauma at diabetes camp, or like how other diabetics have reacted to me personally, or how I've reacted to them personally, or how like dogs can get diabetes. Like there was a lot that I wanted to talk about, but I couldn't within the page limit that I had.
Because of that, how did making this comic change how you thought about storytelling then?
It made me realize that I can do dialogue in terms of information dumps pretty well. like I can sum up a character's like dialogue on like let's say like lore of the world and make it a little more interesting. That was where I learned that I could do that
Mm.
a little bit
Yeah.
better, and that helped me learn a little something about my writing as a whole more than anything else with how I write.
So what does your workflow look like from like idea to thumbnails to pages? How does that look?
So for I go by I just go with the flow.
Mm.
I draw the characters, draw the setting, and then I go. And then I write dialogue as I need to within each page while I'm working on the page itself. And then I just go. I don't stop to write a script. I don't stop to redraw a certain thing. I draw everything and then I go.
Mm.
So there isn't really like I don't know if I don't think I mentioned this, but I am dyslexic as hell. Forgive my
Mm.
slang for my potty mouth, but I am dyslexic. So it's a struggle to really get my words down on a page and stop because I have to kind of correct myself every time I write a sentence. And so this has helped me slow down a lot more and work on what I want to write while I draw.
Okay.
So that's how I write at the same time.
Okay.
And that's kind of my
Huh.
workflow. And that has helped me draw like a lot of different comics and stuff like I don't think I have it over here. I probably have it back there, but I did have like a book this thick from that whole process and workflow that I mentioned. I just drew all the characters and then I yeah, went all out with that concept.
How does living in Vermont kind of shape your creative life, or if it does at all?
Oh, it definitely has. Like in terms of drawing nature, I'm very good at that. And in terms of drawing old houses, I'm also really good at that. Like I have a drawing right here that I just finished. So
Huh.
I like drawing stuff like this. I like drawing houses, I like drawing nature, and I really like drawing environments and backgrounds and looking at like how characters work within those environments and backgrounds. I do like drawing that type of stuff. And another aspect of Vermont life that I really like is just how weird the people are. Um like when I first after I graduated CCS, I opened an art gallery with my mom and dad. They were the owners and I was the manager, and we got to meet a lot of crazy people. Not like in terms of like, you know, not the other type of crazy, but just like very vast amount of people and a lot of different artists and how they all work with different mediums. And I found that very fascinating. And I also really enjoyed how town life worked and how diverse towns are and how different they are from location to location. And even though we live in Vermont and it's so remote from each place, like it takes like 40 minutes to drive from like um Woodstock to Lebanon. It's very easy to just get lost in just how fast the roads are, but like even the roads have character and the towns have character. And just being in like just growing up in like New Hampshire and Vermont, like they're two different places, but they feel the same, but yet they're so different.
Right.
And definitely environments have definitely influenced my storytelling and the characters that live in it. So,
Right.
definitely how I approach characters and world building from that regard.
Are there creators that you return to when you need inspiration?
Yes. I like going to um Jim Henson and the Dark Crystal. I like watching the documentary of how they built the sets and just watched everything. And I also really like Calvin and Hobbes. I like Bill Watterson. I like him. And I also love Mutts. The Mutts comics are very nice. And One Piece is a great world building story. I love reading that. Um what's the other artist? One moment. I forget his name and I can't read it. It's in cursive. um um but a lot of children's books I like reading help me be creative in that sense. Mercy Watson is a great example, just like about a pig that eats toast and goes on crazy adventures in her neighborhood. It's the greatest little story. And it's relatable because you live near farms and you see pigs everywhere. And like I live down the street where there are cows. And like, what if a cow ate banana bread? It's just like these are just things you ask. Um, but yeah, no, I love just a lot of different like artists and creators. And Studio Ghibli is also another great version. Is another one
Mm.
I just love a lot of different artists, and if and a gun to my head, I could not tell you which one has inspired me more. I really couldn't.
So, what are you working on next, and where should folks go to read your comics and support you then?
Well, so far with my comics, I've been trying to keep it more close to my chest because I feel like
Mm.
I've had a lot, instead of posting on my website, I've been sharing some stuff with other creators on the outside, and it's come to the point where I have nothing left to share, and it's kind of gone. So, do you know the idea of workshopping and how you just share your stuff? It's gotten to the point where workshopping has not worked in
Huh.
my department. I feel like I've overshared and I kind of need
Hmm.
to stop. And it's gotten to the point where I've scrapped so much stuff, and I'm like, God dang it! So I'm back to the drawing board with my Thief and the Cobbler edition. Not the actual, but like I feel like every artist has this magnum. They're not their magnum opus, but their one project. Their Thief and the Cobbler. You know that movie?
Mm.
Everyone has that version of their story, where they just keep on going back and working on it no matter what, and it's never good enough and it's never
Hmm.
perfect. And even though you could draw all these amazing
Right.
scenes or you can
Yeah.
like write these great characters, it won't stop. So I my Thief and the Cobbler is sadly pawdust. That's why I've learned since I graduated college is that this is the one that's been stopping me from really thinking about my own art process and going back to the drawing board over and over again. And my art experience with that has been very complicated, but yet also very revealing. And so I've been going back to the drawing board again with that book, and I kind of want to redo it all over again because I didn't have anything to begin with.
Mm.
So I'm like, well, dang it, I have to restart again. So that's kind of what's been happening. So it's been a little bit of a weird environment to be in. But you can read up on my website. I have a blog up and I have a newsletter that you can sign up. It's all up on my website, bellapinkpen.com. And I have a Tumblr. It's at bellapinkpen, and my Instagram is bellapink.pen.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it.
Hmm.
But if I had one thing to say about the artist experience in making comics, is that it's okay to have that one project that stumps you, but don't let it deter you. It's probably just trying to tell you something's not working
Mm.
with it.
Right.
That's what I've been trying to figure out is
Right.
what's not working.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, which is a shame because I
All
really do love it.
right.
It's a love-hate
Good.
relationship.
So this is great, Isabella. It's nice to be able to talk to you about your work. And so, listen, you have to come back on once you get another new projects.
I want to get this project up in the air. So thank you for having me on. Seriously.
Yeah, no, this has been fun, Isabella. Thank you for coming on.